right. Yeah. Hey, thank you for joining. Not really doing much at the moment. I'm actually, funny enough, I just put this on the calendar to try to start streaming and working on my game. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I want to do today, though. Um, so I'm going to, we'll open up the game design document. We'll go through that. Um, so I think I'm just going to kind of go through a little bit of this stuff. Maybe I'll do a little drawing or something too. Um, so let's see. I don't know if I really want to. I don't know if I need to talk about everything here, but um, all right. Hmm. Yeah, maybe not. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm not super prepared right now, but I'm gonna find something to do. Um, actually, let's look at character designs. Yeah, I mostly just set this time up just to kind of, you know, block some time to work on game development. Thought I'd stream it too. All right, here we go. So this is like way back when I made a spreadsheet, and this is kind of going over some of the core character like personalities and stuff for my game. Um, so let's see, how many characters is this? It's like 9 or 10, right? No, this yeah, it's 10 characters. Um, so actually, what I kind of wanted to do was I wanted to actually start doing more like character, kind of like rounding out some of the character designs for the game, um, and get some like rudimentary concept art done for some of the characters. So you've seen a couple of characters already on my channel. Um, it's so I still have some other ones here I wanted to try to do. So let's see. So we got Nunko here. He's the one I was trying to 3D model a little bit. I actually wanted to get back to that at some point, but like I got stuck on the hair, and I just like never really got around to fixing that. Um, let's see. But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work on this character right here, Xena. Um, so actually, let me do a little bit of something here. It's a lot of characters, yeah. Um, I don't know. An RPG of this type usually has around this ballpark of this amount of characters. It does depend on, yeah, it depends on the game. I've seen some RPGs have like a core cast of like 6 characters, but the thing like with the way the story is structured in my game right now, a couple of characters kind of swap out. So like there's 10 characters, but you won't really have more than 8 at a time. Um, with the way it kind of is currently structured. Let's see. I know what to do. Which one was it? Okay. So I had done this a while ago, and I want to kind of refine it a little bit. But this was like the design for this character. This is Xena. Um, so so the way I kind of approach concept art and stuff like that. Now, granted, I'm not an artist by trade, but because I'm not an artist by trade, I like to kind of take things a bit more technically. So I'll draw something like this where I can like very simply just like have a front view of a character, put like a mirror on, and then I don't have to worry about like other details as much. Like just get the general proportion and the outfit and stuff like that. And then you can use that as a base to like do the 3D model or like other like key arts later on. Um, so for this character, let's go ahead and actually take a look at the side by side here. Go dock this. Actually, kind of see what currently designed here. Okay. Um, so, so who is Xena actually? Like, what's her role in the game and the story? Um, Xena is I, I guess her role in gameplay is that she's basically the mage character. Um, and with the way my game is structured, it's not really magic per se in the world, but the forces that are in this world can have a component that acts similarly to magic. Um, so there's actually really three primary streams of damage and combat. There's mind, body, and spirit, basically, and the the body is like physical damage. So you're playing or you're using weapons and doing things like that. Spirit would be your more traditional magic. That would be elemental type stuff. And I think one of the differentiating things, besides it hitting a different like defensive stat, is that the magic, or I guess the spirit arts would typically have more like range. Um, they could have area of effects. They could do stuff like that. Um, there could also be an aspect of elemental effectiveness. I still have to kind of work through that exactly. Why I want like how I want to do that. Um, but that's kind of where we're going at. Mind is a little bit more nuanced. Mind damage is it's kind of like it's kind of like spirit damage, but mind focuses more on the like debuff or like aspects. Typically, a mind art in this game would have some sort of secondary debuff effect. Um, you could think of it um, like in D&D, there's necrotic damage or psychic damage. It would be similar to that. So for Xena, she's focused on spiritual attacks. So she's like a very offensive spiritual character. So typically, this type of character build, you'd have but somebody that's kind of frail looking, but a bit spirity looking. And that would be like her game function. Now, about the character herself is that in this world where the game takes place, she's she's fairly young, and she has an older sister as well, who also plays a very important role in the game. But like for her, she was, she lived in a small village, years ago. But the village, there was a tragedy in the village. The whole village basically burned down, caught on fire, and as a result, she was separated from her sister and her friends and stuff like that. But she was also very young at the time, so she doesn't really remember much about what happened. Um, and at the time, the village leader, um, entrusted, you know, helped her find a new home. So um, she ended up being in the care of another village leader. So after that tragedy happened, the world basically splits, and a whole bunch of other, villages and stuff um, show up, and they basically each kind of live in their own bubble for what I think is about 13 years or so. I got to look at again the actual math, but um, you know what? Maybe it'll be easier if I explained what the world map looked like. Do I have that? Uh, maybe I could pull up in my OneNote. Give me one sec. So this is a rudimentary version of the map that I drew up for the world. Um, and basically, it's kind of spoilery, but it's in development anyway, so it's subject to change. But basically, this world, the world itself is called Aliaterra. It's a small world, and it's intentionally very small. So this one main continent is the entire world, but there is an offshoot continent. I'll talk about that in a moment. Um, and this is, in a way, the mechanic worked with it is that this is like a brainchild of a character who is actually like a human who lived on Earth, and it was basically a world that she's built in her dreams. Like, she's had kind of like a rough upbringing and stuff like that, and she would often, her escape was this world that she created in her head, basically. But what happens is later on she discovers a catalyst that connects her to another universe and a person from that universe who actually has the ability to create worlds. And as such, her world is created. The world was designed to be a utopia, which, in her mind, is a world where there's basically no conflict and people can live basically as they please. Um, but the reality of that is that um, the reality is that you know utopias are subjective. But part of the problems of what happened is that she eventually comes and lives in her own world, but she also kind of starts some conflict on her own, unintentionally, of course, but kind of between that and the other guy that she was with. The world kind of slowly loses its image of a utopia, and as things kind of go to a head, there's a um, the tragedy is a big catalyst for that, and the world's not really the same utopia as it once was envisioned to be. However, the world still is relatively peaceful. It's just that behind the scenes, there's this conflict brewing that's been there for years. Um, so yeah, to answer your question, so she made the world. Well, it has psychological themes, absolutely. So the biggest theme of my story is about following your dreams, but also about how reality has a play in it, and how we as people perceive reality and how we perceive it relative to our dreams. Um, there's schools of thought where like people are like, oh, you know, you want to chase your dream no matter what. And there's also schools of thought where it's like your dreams are futile, like because of the way reality is, the world sucks, blah blah blah. Um, and these are all just very demoralizing things. And I think trying to find a middle ground that also just allows people to be truly themselves, find happiness and peace, um, is really what this story is about, because every character has their own ambitions, their own dreams, but it's a challenge for them to navigate them in the world that they live in. And it's about trying to do also what they do is feels right, but at the same time, also trying to understand what their purpose is and how they can make a life worth living. So all this stuff, and this is stuff that's very close, hits very close to home to me. And I write about this because like this has been a conflict my entire life. Um, I've always wanted to follow my dreams, basically unabashedly, but given the reality of certain things like expectations from loved ones, you know, the societal expectations, the need to actually like live and support yourself. Um, those types of things are all tricky to navigate when you're also trying to understand your emotions, also like what your dreams look like, and if you want to like you're like, okay, well, is if do I still want to follow my same dream after all it's happened? You know, there's also an element of sunk cost fallacy sometimes, where it's like, oh, I've lived my life for this entire purpose, but I'm not getting anywhere. You could see a lot on my channel how like that's been a very common theme with everything I've done. Um, and yet I'm still struggling a lot with managing it, and I'm figuring out how I want to actually go about you know my dream, or if my dream is even worth pursuing anymore, like that type of stuff. So it's a really I think it's a really important thing that kind of I feel on a personal level. And I think when we write stories for our games or anything, or even just stories on our own, it's really good to talk about something that we feel very, you know, passionate about or comfortable about. Um, and it also just makes it a lot easier to write a story about it when you experience it firsthand. So, I also just deep down, I really feel like, you know, I've grown up around people who have basically gone scorched earth, like forgot about their dreams, and then as a result have become very bitter people. Um, and I don't think that's the way to live either. There's like I think it's really important that people are empowered to follow their dreams, because like that's exactly what I would want. But I feel like it's something that everyone wants too. So anyway, so we got this world, and don't mind the names. I am horrible at naming things. As you probably see with any game developer, but yeah, I'm just horrendous at naming things. Um, but basically, the central dot here, this where it's labeled Fathom Park, is effectively when this world was built, that was basically the only really civilization there. Um, I still have to kind of figure out the exact details, but like that's where it basically started. And then over time, after the tragedy happened, um, the world, some new villages and cities popped up around. Um, the character that basically created this world, when she came to the world, she basically assumed, or in a way, is like became like the queen in a way. And that kind of in part is due to her own selfish desires. But the but because of that, and because of her, I guess in a way, greed, that's kind of why conflict eventually, came into play. Um, and around, when she came to the world, she basically assumed that role, and there were several advisors of hers. So those advisors have, when basically when a tragedy happened, have split from her, and they've basically developed their own, villages and basically communities. So see, like the town here, Wuhong and New Breath Village, they're all run by like her former advisors and stuff like that. So that's kind of like where we're going here. So the character Xena that I'm talking about, she lives in Wuhong. So basically, she's been raised there, and she was raised by an advisor who actually is over like 100 years old. Um, Now the guy is basically old and senile, but due to the way this world works and the way the force of Ara is, I'd have to explain Ara, but I'll get to that at some other point. Is people can live a lot longer in this world because there's several reasons for it, and one of the reasons is that like as long as your mind, body, and spirit are unified, it's pretty difficult for you to, get killed. Um, Death usually comes when all three of those aspects of a person finally diminish. Um, so in this world, you really can't be murdered. Um, like you can cut off a limb, but you can actually regenerate it with the force of Ara here. People actually do age, but they age much more slowly. And age is ultimately what causes death in this world. And the reason for that is because over time, your ability to keep your mind, body, and spiritual fortitude diminishes. Um, so there is the aspect of age, but but that's why you'll see like people age much more slowly in this world. Um, so for someone to actually die, it basically has to get to the point where their mind, body, and spirit are basically completely diminished. So aging basically takes a toll on your body, but it also takes a toll on your mind and spirit. And typically, what this looks like is once a person has fulfilled their life, and they can then move on, basically. So that can look different for everybody. Um, so we'll talk a little bit more about how this plays in here. Um, so Xena, yep, she's a young girl, and her Arcana is her older sister. We'll talk about Arcana another time because she's a very important character, and I'd like to dedicate more time to her on this channel. Um, but basically, with Xena, because she's younger and she's also kind of been exposed to this tragedy and kind of the separation at an early age, it doesn't really affect her as much as it does for Arcana and others who are in that similar position. I mean, it does ultimately confuse the heck out of her, but for her, she's much more like upbeat and a bit more, in a way, kind of just like silly and high energy. Um, she's also the type of person that would get very lost in her, you know, her special interests. So yeah, she probably are thinking autism, and yeah, I probably have every character as an autistic person in this, but some of them unintentionally. But like Xena's big thing is that she's been fairly secluded her life because she's basically lived in just a one town her entire life. So she really hasn't seen much of the world at all. But to her, it's a very positive motivation to just be able to like learn. So she's a very intelligent person, and she learns things quickly and she picks up on things quickly. Um, she's almost like a sponge in the sense that she'll absorb knowledge. Um, but it kind of, in some ways, goes to her detriment sometimes because she's very excited about things. And when you're interacting with some people who aren't as excited about things, it can get a little bit annoying, or at least to them. But I think one of the biggest things about Xena is that she has untapped potential. Like, there's a lot she can do, and a lot that she doesn't realize she can do. But because she's been so secluded, she hasn't really had the ability to do that much. Um, so for her, her biggest desire is just to be able to explore the world, um, and see, more things, learn more things, and just really just be a part of, you know, I guess you could say nature, but like the world. Um, this contrasts to Jordan. So Jordan, I have mentioned on this channel before, but that was in my character design video I did about a year ago. Let's see, do I have a Jordan? I have a Jordan. Here we go. So that's this guy. So this is Jordan. Um, Jordan has a very similar upbringing. He's also been secluded, but this is more in a more bitter way. So a common thing that you'll see between my character designs in this game is that you'll see characters with similar upbringings but different outlooks on those upbringings. Um, and this is one of the key examples of this is, Jordan does not like being in a secluded village at all. He feels like his father holds him back a lot, and he resents his father for a lot of the overprotectiveness that he's had. So Jordan is a fairly bitter person. I wouldn't say he's a bad guy though. He's also just very misguided, but at the same time, he hasn't been able to see the world in a way that like others have because he hasn't actually literally been allowed to. Um, and a lot of this comes down to his father being the mayor of the village that he grows up in, um, and his father, also desiring his son to take over as the mayor when he comes of age, but also because his father has seen the tragedy beforehand and is, very worried about keeping his son safe. Um, so, and this also is a very, this is also something that I feel like I can relate to in a way because, like, my parents were overprotective, and while they mean well most of the time, they, um, the overprotectiveness can kind of come with a lot of downsides, and it's, you know, and it led, and it leads to things like what I've done, taking a major risk with my life. Now, it comes with some good and bad things, but like I think the big thing for, the big theme with Jordan here is that he hasn't seen any of this stuff because he hasn't been allowed to. So he hasn't been able to really shape his worldview. But like over time, he'll learn, he'll learn more about the world. He'll get to appreciate people more. He'll get to appreciate his role a bit more in the world, and he'll and while he won't really agree with what his father has done, he'll eventually come to terms with it, and he'll at least understand that it was from a good place. But at the same time, kind of develop a healthier outlook on it. Um, so Jordan comes from a secluded background with resent, but Xena comes from a background with nothing but love and excitement. So you'll see that the two of these characters contrast each other a lot in the story. Um, so I didn't really fill out much of this here, but we can say like Xena was yeah, and then for Xena, I think like some of her, I guess, the things that she learns in contrast to Jordan is like, yeah, even though she gets to see more about the world as well, is that it mellows her out a little bit more, and that she, learns to not take things for granted as much. So, okay, so with all of that, let's talk about the actual character design. Um, so typically, when you're designing a character, there's a few roles that come into play. There's the form follows function thing, where like, okay, this is a video game, so the character should appear to look like what their role is in the video game. Which my attempt here at the design is that yeah, she's wearing a kimono. She looks like a magical character. So like, I think that makes sense, right? Um, Now, granted, because I'm not a professional, that I'm sure there's plenty of things I could make better that I don't know, but it's that's at least kind of the idea here. As well as some other aspects of the character, like she's a happy-go-lucky character, so like you can kind of see she's a bit more petite. Um, I guess flowing garments can help with that. The Asian theming, I think, also kind of ties into the spirituality a little bit as well. Um, it also kind of ties into where she comes from, which is also fairly Asian themed. So, I was also, when I made this document of the character matrix here, I was also thinking about like design motifs. Like, is there something based in nature that I could base the character design on? And one of the things was with Xena, I was like, maybe I could think about butterflies. Um, Butterflies are, and I think it's a fairly good metaphor in this case because when you're growing up, you're in a cocoon, or you're a caterpillar, you don't really know much about what's going on, and then you're in a cocoon, and then all of a sudden you're a butterfly and you're free to explore the world, but in a very positive, excited kind of way. And butterflies roam freely, so we could look into potentially making a butterfly motif within her design, um, or similar things like that. So that's kind of a thinking. Now, as far as colors go, um, so I want her main color to be green, and the reason for that is because with Ara and the way Ara works, there are three colors, and they each represent the mind, body, and the spirit. So, actually, I may as well just take the colors here. So, like, red is your body, right? So this is the body. Green is your spirit. Um, and then there's blue, which is the mind. So because she is the spirit character, green would have to be the core color that we want to work with here. Um, Now, doesn't mean there's other colors you know, we can work with, but I'm thinking green would be good. So we want to focus on that as our core color palette. Um, so let's see. Um, there's some other little quirky things I like to put in here too about the characters. Um, her handedness is she's an ambidextrous person, so she's not left or right handed. Um, Mostly because I thought that was cool, but given her weapon of choice, being ambidextrous actually kind of makes sense. So funny enough, she does not use a staff. She instead uses war fans, um, and that's also just because I thought it was neat. But you can also kind of make the attacks feel a bit more dance, like feel more like a dance, like a spiritual dance with that. So I think it's a pretty neat idea. I'm willing to explore. Um, I think another thing too is that there are some races in this world as well, but they're very subtle races. So you're used to in fantasy settings, you'll see like elves, orcs, that type of stuff. They're similar like in this world, but they're not like explicitly elves, orcs, or whatever. Instead, they're humans with usually one or two standout traits. So Xena's race actually comes from a race that actually has gems on their bodies. So she has a emerald gem on her forehead. Um, for as an example, Jordan looks a little bit more like an elf. I'd have to pull him up again, but just take my word for it. Um, what else can she do? Um, yep, she's very intelligent. She's not as wise, but she's very intelligent. Um, she learns things very quickly. She enjoys knowledge, but she's also very good at like cooking and reading and stuff like that too. So she does take care of herself. And part of the reason for that is because her caretaker is so old, she has to kind of pull her own weight sometimes. She likes, as far as food goes, um, I think sweets would be a big one, but I think also she likes healthy food too. She likes vegetables. She's vegetarian, I would say. And then she's also very obsessed with how things look. Um, so she's one of the characters would be the first to point out if something attracts her eye, um, which can lead to some potentially comedic moments. And she's also just very excitable. So one of the things about this type of character that I kind of find I want to tread carefully with is is that typically you'll kind of find this like young quirky character in like anime and even like Japanese RPGs, and they tend to be like annoying as fuck. Um, I want to try to capture the essence of that character, but not with that same level of annoyingness. If you know what I mean. Like sometimes their voices are a little bit too squeaky, sometimes they're a little bit too excited. Um, but like the thing is that's fairly innocent, right? It's not like a bad thing per se, but sometimes that's exaggerated too much. I feel so. I want to try to tame her enough that like that's not really a thing, but that's still the essence of the character. Um, and then there's really not much else to say about her. Um, so with all that being said, let's take a look at some of the drawing. Um, Give me one sec. Got a comment off. Let's see. Are you giving information? Are you telling us? Actually, I think that's unrelated. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about like actual stuff, technical stuff. So approaching the concept art here, I want to find some references and stuff like that. And actually, let me make a list on the side here. We'll just jot it down, of some key elements that we want to see in the design. Um, so, so first is green, obviously. So I want to see the green. So talked about butterfly, right? We want to talk about, you know, her function as a mage, right? Talk about, you know, her personality being basically excitable. And also basically like Asian descent, so like spiritual, right? So, oh, and apparently I mirrored the text. Awesome. All right, but you get the idea. So maybe we'll clean this design up a little bit here. So proportion wise, oh yeah, I should also talk about that too. Like she is a designer to be 16 years of age. Um, so that would mean that she's not completely matured yet, but um, so she would definitely look younger than some of the others in the cast. She's also short. I think she's a little less than 5 feet tall. I don't know if I have it here, but I have. I'm in Krita right now, but when I used Clip Studio Paint, I've generated these 3D models. Um, and it was actually a really cool tool. I need to reinstall Clip Studio. Part of the reason I didn't is because with things on this channel, I want to make sure I'm using free tools as much as possible because it makes things more accessible to people. The So, but like Clip Studio is also really just a good drawing program. Feels sensational. Yeah. I mean, realistically, Clip Studio Paint doesn't cost that much money, so I guess like I could use it. But I'm okay with Krita for now. I'll have to switch around potentially, but um, but yeah. So the idea with here was like, okay, let me measure how many heads this is. Just gonna do a ballpark. Let's see. So that's like, actually, you know what? Rectangle. Meh. Come on. What the hell? Here we go. Oh. Okay, so I did not actually copy. Sorry, give me 1 second. Making this a lot harder than it needs to be. I just copy to new layer. There we go. So if we were to take this, you can kind of see that's like 2 heads right there. Three, 4, 5. Okay, so she is about 7 heads tall. I think it's about fine. Um, but yeah, you can kind of see how like you can see you kind of have that template there, right? Oh, that's supposed to be the pose I want to use. Test. And then this was a reference image that I found. I really liked this as like a reference. So we can kind of put that to the side here too. Let's see. So here's her head. Okay, so if we think about her head, forget about the other details, right? Yeah, she's supposed to have the hair too. Okay, so I was kind of thinking. So we got the emerald on the head here. Now the shape of her eyes. So I was thinking the eyes be a little bit pointier, but yeah, but also bigger than average. Um, her head being a little bit rounder as well. Now about the hair. So if we look at this hair as opposed to like the reference image, the reference image has hair that's a bit more, I guess, wavy and traditional. I think another thing I like to consider as well is not necessarily the character's design in a vacuum, but as a whole with the rest of the characters. And part of the reason I didn't go with this exactly is because my other character, Kyla, has hair that's much more similar to that. So I do want to make sure that the hairstyles are different enough between each character that they kind of can stand out from each other. Um, I do also kind of like the idea of it kind of being like kind of like pigtail like, but not exactly, because it would kind of resemble the youth kind of theme that we're thinking here. Um, so she has like a bun. Um, so if I kind of did like a profile view, just like a real quick profile view. Let's see, is this like, cause if I like drew the, bear with me here. I need stabilizer. Okay, that's too much stabilizer. There we go, that's better. So I do like a profile view, right? We'll kind of make like the, right, this is not, this is not the right, not the right pencil. Alright, I'm gonna have to find a new brush. Alright. You want a little bit of opacity on it. How about this one? Let's see. No. Okay, it looks like my opacity settings might be off. Let's see. I'm not exactly sure how to turn it back on. Here, I'll just lower the opacity of this for now. Whatever. But like if I drew kind of like a rough profile, like the character, right? And you kind of have like the face here. Yeah, this is not gonna look good. Apologies, it looks like I'm gonna have to adjust my tablet settings, I think. It seems like something's not quite right. Where's my XP pen thing? Pen tablet, here we go. Alright, so I think that's fine. Pen settings. Let's see, Windows Ink, mouse mode. I think this is right. I might actually just restart Krita. Let's see. Whatever. So we have something here. File preferences. Where? Okay, now I'm drawing a blank. Where I find it? It's an edit, right? Crap. Settings, here we go. Okay. Should be WinTab. Here, I'll just restart Krita. We'll flip it around and get it to work again. Oh. Well, either way, the opacity's working now, so we'll roll with it. Cool. So I wanted to draw kind of like a profile view here, just to kind of show you what this looks like. So her nose would be kind of like this, right? And then she's gonna have lips. So our emerald will be like right here. Yeah, protrude out a little bit. Actually, maybe a little. So we have a couple of options. Is can make the hair. I do think it would be important to have that element shown. So I would make maybe the hair like this. And honestly, she's a character I wouldn't mind exaggerating some of the features of like the hair. So we could do like something like this. And then she would still have ears, so it would be like the ear right here. Actually, there's a little too much stabilization here. It's a little better. Yeah, her ear should be kind of like right there. She still should have some sort of bangs, I think, right? Give her kind of longer one, bangs like that, potentially. I mostly wanted to show the side profile of the hair, right? So she would have to have so she has a bun, right? Maybe not that big. Bun would probably be kind of like that, right? There will be kind of like a chopstick coming out of it, I guess you can call it, right? And then this would also have to come up here like that. But what I wanted to do is kind of illustrate how this hair would look. So it'd be kind of, but I think it would also be much longer. Kind of like that. But it would be two pieces of it. So like from the back side, you got like the bun here, which is kind of like this. You get the chopstick going through it. And there should be kind of like two strands of hair kind of going through it. Okay. That's atrocious. But anyway, oops. I'm gonna move this. Gonna put it up here for now. She'll put it on the right side. What else? Okay, so I want to go back. I think what I want to do here is I want to, I think I want to work more on the facial features. We can kind of look at the body a little bit later. But, if I look at like the reference image as an example, right? So I do kind of like how this reference image has the eyes. The eyes are kind of like nice and wide. Let me pull up the mood board I had on Pinterest real quick. So I also liked this one. Kind of got a similar vibe where you got like the, for lack of a better word, chopsticks in the hair. Like the bangs as well. I guess even the way the face is structured is pretty good. So it's like an option we can use. Some of these others were more for like aesthetics. Like I know this one's AI, but the colors are kind of cool here. Even the eyes are kind of the right vibe, I think. Look at this hair. This hair is actually very similar to what I'm going for. And also the fans are also something that I would incorporate in the design a little bit. Actually, I think what's kind of neat about this one is the flowing part. Not that we use exactly this, but I like the concept of it. I could put like a flowing little thing on her. That can be kind of like on the back. So like when she moves around, it's nice and flowy and it looks cool. Okay, but more specifically, I want to look for facial features. So I'm not sure like these eyes are exactly what I want to look for. This is another one of those reference images I think I really liked with the design too. Although this one's got a bit of a shorter skirt. Conceptually it's fine though. If I want to use that for like the eyes or something like that, but let's Yeah, let's play around with the facial features. So I think the best ones for the face are still probably this one and the other one that I already have. So I'm just gonna copy it and move it into here. I'm also gonna crop it. Crop. Actually, you know what? Let's just do it this way. Oops. Look. So if we look at the shape of the eye here, it's so hers are a bit more pointed upwards and stuff like that. That could be resemblance of the race she comes from, but I think in this case we do want her eyes to be much more like open. So, so let's see. So I'm gonna go ahead. Yeah, here we go. Turn the mirror on, and so could do. So what I'm going to do here actually is I'm going to take this here. I'm going to move it kind of. It looks creepy. But we can have that kind of behind here. Get the right size too, right? Okay, and what I'm going to do is use it as a guide. Okay, I think my pen's small enough now. And I just want to kind of just get the essence of the shape of the eye, right? And it looks like I can do kind of something like this. Something along these lines, right? All right. And then typically there's like a small like accent there. So we can look at that and use that as potentially a guide. Let's see. Hide that here. Okay. So I think what I want to do actually, maybe move this so it's more slightly more oval. eyelash as well. Okay, yeah, I gotta remove this. It needs to be smaller anyway. Okay, so what else can I say? Okay, so one on the left has a bit more eyelash, so we'll want, oops, I want to do that as well. Yeah, something does seem a little bit off about it. It's like almost too much. So I kind of want to fix the face structure a little bit too. I'm gonna take a minute to do that. Okay. I'll just go off of this and I can adjust it later. It looks like the mouth is in a fairly correct spot. Now the nose looks also fine. Could probably even move the eyes a little bit. Now it looks a little bit more, but we'll take a look at it. Okay, I see. That's a little bit better. Okay, so I think the eyes are a little bit too far apart now. Well, this kind of gives me like Genshin Impact vibes a little bit. Let me move the eyes just a bit more back. I'll move them back. Where they were. Okay. Maybe a bit more this way. Okay, I think the face needs a little bit more. She needs more of a jawline. Yeah, I kind of OCD a lot when I draw, so I like go over the lines way too much. Do something like that. Actually, it does need to be a little bit. It needs to cut more. And then I think I want to make the eyes just a tad smaller too. So like my game definitely has an anime aesthetic, but I do also want to kind of make it just a little bit slightly more, I'm not sure realistic is the right word, but yeah, now since I did that, I gotta move the eyes again. Oops. Oops. I think our eyebrows are fine. Okay, that looks better. I think another thing I can potentially do here is I could rotate the eyes just a little bit. I thought it could tell me like how much I'm rotating it by. If I shift, there we go. Might be too much. These won't be even, but it's fine. I don't know. I think that looks fine. Let me update the bangs a little bit here too, so I can just put the ears in. I have to reference images for now. It's the body here. I'll hide the body too. Actually, I would make this slightly less round, more direct. Alright, so if we kind of look at like I did the profile view for her hair, right? So she's gonna have to expose that. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do the ears here too. Just have a reference to them. This still looks a little bit bony. It's a little bit better. Okay. else can we do? All right. I also want to think about like eye details as well. Typically, you don't want to do that too much at this point in time, but I think the way the face looks is better now. So I'm thinking about how the hair can be tied up. Yeah, I think that's. And kind of clean this up a little bit here too. Also with her gem on her head, I want the gem to kind of be more pointed like that. I think. And maybe more pointed up here too. Something like that. And then I was thinking, so the hair could go straight out like I had it, but I think if those big bangs kind of wrap in through her head a little bit, like I have on the profile, it could be pretty neat. Now, how to actually visualize that, I'm not so sure. Maybe like something like this. Hmm. So look at it like this shape, right? Yeah, you won't really be able to see it well from the front though. Maybe if I do it a little bit more like this. Kind of looks like she's wearing like a turban. Which I guess is fine. Let's see. So I think the hair will overlap the emerald a little bit. I do want the emerald to still be visible. I think I'll turn the mirror off here and we'll just kind of overlap this one a bit more. wondering if I also want to make her hair a little bit taller. Turn the mirror back on. It's not perfect, but it's fine. So basically on my skill level of drawing, because I'm like not a professional and I'm like not that great at it, I like to kind of work in tandem with 3D modeling. So when I at least like have the rudimentary like concept drawn out, but I can also use 3D to kind of help guide some of the more like um I was gonna say positional like aspects of the drawing. So like because I'm having trouble visualizing the hair like this, I can like when I do the 3D portion of it, I could always go back and adjust the drawing. Because doing that in 3D would be a bit easier because I could just model the bang out and use sculpt mode to kind of wrap it around the head. Um, as an example. Okay, and then here's her other hair. So I think this still looks relatively fine, right? Do a layer above it. I think the bun is large. I don't mind having it slightly exaggerated though. Um, I think the bun's gonna look kind of like this. A bit more, kind of like a bow. Maybe not that high up though. And then kind of behind it's like this. And there would also be kind of like an aspect of where the hair's got to pull, right? I'm not going to worry about asymmetry here. Actually, yeah, the bun would still even be lower. You might not even see it in the front view at all, actually. Um, hmm. Let's do it like that then. I can move the chopsticks. So it would be like here. Something like that, right? And then kind of from where the bun would be, the hair is going to kind of come out like this. All right. Yeah, so bun. So think about a bun real quick. I try to find a reference. I guess this will just be an IRL one. Um, I look for. Some of these are a little bit more extreme than I would think. But like, so like here's the bun here. But what I kind of want to happen is, okay, so I could tie the hair up from basically the top, kind of go into the side here to form the bun. But we also want this hair basically to not be like this. We want the bottom to come up too. So I think that looks kind of, if we look at the profile, where we have that, here we go. That's kind of like the hair kind of coming up like this, and then the hair kind of going in like this from the top. See, like hair kind of going in this direction, and then the bun kind of sits on top, and then yeah, there's going to be like a little kind of overlapping kind of thing, but yeah, in this case I'm not going to like worry too much about the intricacies of it as much. I can do kind of like a, but ultimately, yeah, they're all kind of going in this direction. Right. It's like, I can kind of, however, her hair is not wavy like that. Instead, I'm going to need to kind of ponytail a little bit here. Alrighty. So if you kind of look at this character's hair, she's got like a similar idea where the hair is tied back up. It's more like a ponytail. So I think what I'm going to have instead is like we'll have the bun, but it splits into two strands instead of one. You can also see kind of like with this character, she has two sets of bangs here too, like the, I could look into doing something like that. Um, uh, maybe if I actually kind of made the, because I'm trying to think, because the hair is going to need to split somehow from there. So let's see. Right, and then yeah, it's going to have to, so actually it will stay kind of mostly together, but it splits off. Yeah, because you want to draw the volume of the hair before getting the strands basically squared away. Actually, I think I like that better. This red layer. Okay. So, yeah, that would make sense, right? Maybe I can have this go more straight down. Splits off later. And then if we do clean up the hair strands. Huh. Actually, yeah, let me bring up. You're right, unintentionally so. Genshin Impact. Yeah, let's see, I'll bring up a picture of her. You know, you're right. I didn't even realize how much of a resemblance my design has. Yeah. Does her hair split too? I think it does. That was largely unintentional, and I've seen this character before. I have the character model on my computer. Um, hmm. I guess it's not that big of a deal, huh? I mean, there's several characters that can share similar hairstyles. Um, well, that's true. I could leverage this, yeah, because you see her bun's higher, and her hair does split too. I don't know if I want to get too hung up on like the hair being exactly the same. It's not really. I have but I mean this would be a pretty good reference to use, so I guess um thanks for pointing it out. I do want to still get her bangs in here though, so let me do that. That's the hair. I'm just gonna add another layer. Bangs. Thinking, oops. I could do. Yeah, they should be probably fairly. Let's see. And then. Yeah, the main strand kind of looks like this, right? Kind of. Get the hair. I think actually I might want this. You don't really see her hairs or her ears from the front view though. It's a little bit more to balance that. If I move it a little bit too. Yeah, it might be a little bit too close. The Mess around with this a little bit here. So actually, yeah, because like big strand up here, little strands, smaller strands here. Yeah. Another option is actually not to have this mirrored at all. So let's see. If I removed this over here. Trying to think how that would visualize though. Again. Right, because like if her one side's like this. Oops. She can have actually kind of have a hair kind of like so like that's like with asymmetry. Looks all right. Could do something like that. Although I kind of don't mind the symmetry in the hair as much due to like her ambidextrous nature and stuff like that too. Um, we can we'll leave it. Leave that here. That's her bangs. Okay. I wanted to fix this too. Oh shit! Didn't mirror it. Yeah. It's fine. strands probably need to be more visible, right? I'm not gonna mess with that right now. Let's see. So get that. Let's look at her body now. There we go. Could also make her hair slightly wider too. I'm trying to find. Here we go. Make it slightly wider, right? Oh yeah. All right. How about her outfit? I think having like some sort of like flowy thing down here is good. I also like the fact that her sleeves are loose. Um, let's take a look. Let's look at the references again. So like this character's kind of got like a kimono jacket kind of thing going. Could do something like that, but I don't think that's necessary. I think as long as she has the flowing sleeves. The necklace is kind of a nice little touch too. Could do something like that, like a little accessory. Could make her dress a little more pronounced too. Look at some other. Right, nah, it's just her face. Yeah, this one's just got the skirt. It's not really what I'm going for. I kind of like, let's see. Kind of like this one as when it comes to the outfit design. Cause like she actually has bare sleeves too. I kind of like that actually. Um, Another thing I was thinking too is let me organize a little bit here. These are all the reference images. Let's see. Reference images. All right. Also, I think there's one other thing I want to test too with the hair. So I'm gonna go back here. Yep, here's the head. The bun, right? Oops. So instead of having the bun visible here, can I have it more in the middle? And I could like really exaggerate this if I wanted to. Of course, you wouldn't really see it from here. And then you could do like another. So now she's got like 4 chopsticks. But actually, yeah, this is actually too low. I just kind of like up here. Now I draw an additional chopstick. Kind of like that. So like on the back here, like there would be like kind of like one. So something like that. Might have to mess with that one. I'm gonna leave it for now. All right. Let's see. Alrighty. So actually, like these are all the hair pieces. Should go here. That's the body. This is all just okay. so I've actually kind of or I kind of cleaned up those a little bit. Um, okay. Um, Thinking I don't mind the torso part of the body as much. Um, the skirt needs some work though. Or that area. Pull for reference again. So yeah, I could do something like this. Um, I like I do like the idea of the sleeves. I think, yeah, it's gonna have to be kind of reworked a little bit here, just the way it looks. So the sleeves actually kind of come out like this. And then I can do like the actual folds. So like there's a kind of a fold like this, right? I'm gonna kind of like also do that. So you won't see much of the sleeve yet, but and our hand's also just going to be very simplified here. I'm not going to do too much here. Her thumb will probably be like a little bit more like that for now. Okay, so we got that sleeve. I do kind of like the idea as well that the torso kind of goes like this. And then she has like some way to connect her armpit. And she has a bare skin there. I think this is still fine. And yeah, this would be probably of some kind of actually I'm gonna make this a bit more like that. Okay, and I think the other important piece would be some sort of thing that ties here, maybe a little bit higher. Then do like the idea of the skirt being very wavy. Do something like that for now. Kind of. I think maybe more of her legs should show. Kind of base that out like that. And I think kind of whatever thing she has that flows. Yeah, it can be like kind of like a ribbon, kind of like that. Play around with it. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream here. At least we got some character design stuff a little bit done. So I appreciate those who decided to join. Um, Hope it wasn't too boring for you. And thanks for hopping on. Um, and I think what I'm going to do is try to stream on a more regular cadence. Potentially looking for a part-time job. So depending on what my schedule with that looks like, I'll adjust my streaming schedule along with that. But for now, I think I'm going to try to shoot for Sunday afternoons like we just did here. Um, and it's really just going to be kind of either whatever my next video topic is going to be on or just kind of random game development stuff. So other than that, I appreciate y'all joining. Thanks for joining and enjoy the rest of your weekend.